The 30th of September of 2019. FS1 Studios, Los Angeles, California. Skip Bayless was about to ask the question he had been waiting weeks to ask. The question that would cross the line. The question about Steph Curry's marriage. Steph was there, live on Undisputed, sitting less than 3 meters away from Skip. Millions watching. Cameras rolling. And Skip had a plan. Have you ever wondered what happens when a professional provocateur meets someone who won't be? Intimidated? When the weapon that always worked suddenly stops working. It is impossible not to feel the tension that was building in that room. A tension that no one yet perceived, except Skip. Because he had studied, prepared, waited for the perfect moment. Skip Bayless is not just a sports commentator, he is a professional provocateur. And on that September day, he had identified a vulnerability, a weak point, an opportunity. Ayesha Curry. 3 months before, Ayesha had given that interview on Red Table Talk. The comments about wanting attention, the confession about insecurities, the viral moment that the internet turned into a weapon. And Skip saw an opportunity he could not pass up. For 47 minutes, the interview was normal. Basketball, Warriors, the new season. Steph relaxed, smiling, giving polite and friendly answers. Shannon Sharp, Skip's co-host, asked respectful questions. The production was comfortable. The atmosphere was light. But at 48 minutes, something changed. Skip leaned forward. That movement that everyone who has watched Undisputed knows. The movement that means something big is coming. The movement that precedes the bomb. And he said the words that would change everything. "Steph, we need to talk about Ayesha." The room went silent. A thick, heavy silence that you could almost touch. Steph stopped smiling. And what happened in the next 6 minutes left Skip Bayless, for the first time in 30 years of career, completely without words. This is the story of when Skip Bayless crossed the line, and Steph Curry put him in his place, with dignity, with love, and with the defense of his marriage that broke the hearts of millions. But to completely understand what happened in that studio, in that moment, we need to go back. We need to understand who Skip Bayless is, and why that question was not just a casual question. Skip Bayless. Full name, John Edward Skip Bayless II. Born on the 4th of December of 1951 in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. In 2019, at the time of this interview, Skip was 67 years old, and more than 45 years in sports journalism. How many times in life do you find someone who transformed provocation into art? Who made controversy a successful career? Skip's career began in 1976 as a print journalist. Dallas Morning News, Chicago Tribune. Respected, even. But it was on television that Skip found his true calling. From 2001 to 2016 at ESPN, on the program that would become First Take. And since 2016 at FS1, on Undisputed, alongside Shannon Sharp. Skip's trademark? Controversial hot takes. Deliberately provoking athletes. Never, and I mean never, admitting you are wrong. An absolute master at creating drama where no drama exists, and transforming small situations into big narratives. You can see that Skip does not do this by accident. It is pure strategy, calculated, tested for decades. Skip's famous targets are legendary in the sports world. LeBron James, his #1 target for more than 15 years. Skip said that LeBron was not clutch, that Jordan was better at everything, that LeBron was soft, weak, without winning mentality, LeBron eventually responded on Twitter, "Skip Bayless is trash. Trash." And yet, Skip continued, "Tom Brady." Initially, Skip said that Brady was just a system quarterback, a product of Belichick's system. Then, curiously, he completely changed his mind and declared Brady as the greatest of all time. He became the #1 fan. Contradictory? Yes. But it generated viewership. The Dallas Cowboys. Skip defended them to the indefensible, declared fanatic. And the Warriors, including Curry, from 2015 to 2019. Skip said that Curry was soft, that the Warriors bought championships, that Kevin Durant carried the team on his back, that Steph was overrated. How is it possible that someone builds an entire career on provoking the best athletes in the world? The answer is simple: money. Ratings equal money. Controversy equals attention. Attention equals viewership. Viewership equals more than $10 million per year. Skip's salary at FS1. Naturally, this leads to him being hated. Athletes despise him. Other journalists criticize him openly. Skip is accused of destroying sports journalism, of creating a culture of hot takes without substance, of valuing shock over truth. But here is the undeniable fact. Undisputed was the #1 program on FS1. Millions watched daily. On Twitter, more than 3 million followers. Skip's influence was undeniable, much as people hated to admit it. And it was this influence that Skip used against Ayesha Curry for 3 entire months. June of 2019. Red Table Talk, Jada Pinkett Smith's program. Ayesha was invited for a conversation about marriage, motherhood, public life. A conversation that should have been about female empowerment and vulnerability. But one specific moment went viral in a way that no one expected. "I want attention, too." 4 words, just 4 words, that the internet turned into fuel for months of speculation, criticism, and judgment. But what was the complete context? Ayesha was talking about insecurities, about feeling invisible sometimes. She said, "Everyone pays attention to other women. I want to be seen by my husband." She spoke about not being the girl in the club, about marrying young, about the complexities of growing up in public. It was pure vulnerability, raw honesty, a woman being real about her feelings. But the internet did not see it that way. The reaction was brutal. People said she was ungrateful. That Steph is faithful, what more does she want? That she was seeking too much attention. Embarrassing. Gold digger showing her true colors. The comments were relentless, cruel, merciless. There were defenders, of course. People saying she was being vulnerable and honest. That women can have insecurities. That the media was distorting her words. But they were a minority. The negative narrative dominated. The impact on the couple was immediate. Rumors of marriage problems began to circulate like wildfire. Tabloids published headlines, "Curry marriage in trouble." TMZ speculated, "Ayesha regrets marrying young." The speculation was constant, relentless, invasive. And Steph stayed quiet. For 3 months, from June to September, Steph did not give interviews about the subject. He avoided questions about Ayesha as if they were landmines. On Instagram, he posted a photo supporting her, a silent gesture of solidarity. But he never spoke publicly in depth. Why? Maybe he thought silence would let the storm pass. That ignoring the controversy would make it disappear. But it did not disappear. It grew, and Skip Bayless was right in the center, feeding the flames. On Undisputed, during June, July, August, September, Skip talked about, "This constantly. Ayesha is seeking attention. This is embarrassing for Steph. She is hurting his brand. The Warriors players are uncomfortable. On Twitter, multiple tweets criticizing Ayesha, defending Steph, saying he deserved better, speculating about the marriage as if he had access to their house, their bedroom, their private conversations. Shannon Sharpe, the co-host, defended Ayesha. She is being real, Skip. You are going too far. She is human. The debates between Skip and Shannon got heated, tense, but Skip never backed down. Never admitted that maybe, just maybe, he was wrong. 3 months later, September of 2019, Steph Curry was invited to appear on Undisputed, an invitation to promote the new Warriors season, his first appearance on Skip's program. Shannon suggested the invitation since he had a good relationship with Curry. Skip accepted, but Skip had intentions. Skip's plan was simple: 50 minutes about basketball. Curry relaxed, comfortable, with his guard down. And then, in the last 10 minutes, a casual question about Ayesha. Live, Steph could not escape. Millions watching. Maximum impact. Maximum viewership. September the 30th, 2019. 11:47 in the morning, Pacific Time. 48 minutes of interview had already passed. Curry was relaxed, comfortable, smiling. Shannon asked good questions about the season, about the challenges without Kevin Durant, about leadership. The atmosphere was light, friendly, professional. Skip was waiting, observing, calculating the perfect moment. And then, at 11:47 in the morning, Skip made his move. Steph, before you go, a deliberate pause. The kind of pause that makes your heart race. We need to talk about Ayesha. The trap was set. The cameras focused. The millions watching. And Steph Curry was about to do something no one expected. Something that would change not just that interview, but the entire conversation about marriage, vulnerability, and what it means to defend the person you love. 11:47 in the morning. Live. The temperature in the room changed instantly. You could feel it. That kind of change that does not need words, just energy. Heavy, dense, uncomfortable energy. Skip Bayless leaned forward, that posture he uses when he is about to attack, and he began speaking with a confidence that came from 4 decades of doing exactly this. Provoking. Steph, before you go? Skip paused, letting the suspense build. We need to talk about something that has been in the air for months. Ayesha, the red table talk, the comments about attention. Skip leaned even further forward, his eyes fixed on Steph. Predator assessing prey. Look, I respect you tremendously as a player. You know that. A gentle lie, a social lubricant before the knife. But as someone who has covered this sport for 40 years, I have to ask. Another dramatic pause. Skip was a master at this. Building tension. Making every second count. Those comments from Ayesha about wanting attention, about not being seen, that created a narrative that maybe, possibly, there are problems in the Curry marriage. Shannon Sharpe, sitting next to him, began shifting uncomfortably in his chair. He could feel where this was going, and he did not like it. And I know it is personal, Skip continued, with false empathy dripping from every word. I know it is your private life. But Steph, you are a public figure. Your wife is a public figure. And when she goes on national television and says these things, Skip gestured with his hands, dramatizing every point as if he were making a court speech. Does that not raise questions? Does that not make people wonder, what is going on there? And I am going to be direct with you, because I think you deserve that frankness. There are rumors. Rumors that you guys are having problems. Rumors of potential separation. Shannon could not take it anymore. Skip. He tried to interrupt, but Skip raised his hand. No, Shannon, let me finish. Steph is here. He is an adult man. He can answer. Skip turned all his attention to Steph and released the question he had planned for weeks. Steph, is everything okay in the marriage? Because if I am being honest, that interview did not seem like the interview of a woman who is happy and satisfied. The silence that followed was deafening. The producers in the control booth froze. The cameras, all of them, were focused on Steph. Shannon Sharp had his eyes wide open, shaking his head in disbelief. The entire technical staff was uncomfortable. You could feel the tension crossing the walls. And Steph. In the first 5 seconds, Steph stopped smiling. Completely. The friendly, relaxed smile that had been on his face for 48 minutes simply disappeared. He looked at Skip, then at Shannon, then at the cameras, and back at Skip. From the 6th second to the 10th second, Steph took a deep breath, crossed his hands on the table. His expression changed completely. It was not anger. It was not explosion. It was something deeper, more controlled, more dangerous. From the 11th second to the 15th second, Shannon tried to help. Steph, you do not have to. But Steph raised his hand. A calm, controlled gesture. No, Shannon, it is okay. His voice was calm, controlled, but different. Completely different from the light tone of the last 48 minutes. From the 16th second to the 20th second, Steph looked directly at Skip. Without blinking. A penetrating gaze. Skip expected an explosive response. He expected defensiveness, anger, drama. But Steph was composed. From the 21st second to the 25th second, Steph did something no one expected. Skip, can I ask you a question first? Skip, confident, answered, Of course. Are you married? Yes, 12 years. And you love your wife? Of course I do. From the 26th second to the 30th second, Steph dropped the bomb. And if someone who does not know you, who has never been in your house, never seen you in your private moments, if that person went on national TV and started speculating about your marriage, how would you feel? You can see that something fundamental changed at that moment. The turning point. The turning of the tide. Skip opened his mouth to answer. Stopped. The words did not come. He realized the trap. The trap that he himself had created was now closing around him. Steph was not nervous. Steph was not defensive. Steph was in complete and absolute control of the situation. From the 31st second to the 35th second, Steph continued, his voice still calm, but with a weight that made each word land like a hammer. Because that is what you just did. With my wife. With my marriage. With my family. And for the first time in decades of career, Skip Bayless was visibly uncomfortable. The EE'd provocateur was being provoked. The attacker was being attacked. And he had no answer. Steph adjusted his posture. It was not aggression. It was dignity. Quiet power. And he began to take complete control of the conversation. Skip, I am going to answer your question. But first, I am going to give context. Context that you clearly did not care to understand before asking that question. Steph looked directly at the camera. Not at Skip. Not at Shannon. At the millions watching. And he began speaking. Ayesha and I met when we were 14 and 15 years old. 14. At a church in Charlotte, North Carolina. We started dating when I was 19. We got married when I was 23. Today, I am 31. His voice was getting stronger, more passionate, but still controlled. That is 17 years of knowing her, 12 years of dating and being married, 3 children, 1 marriage, 1 life built together. He looked back at Skip. You mentioned the red table talk. Did you watch the complete interview? Or just the 30-second clip that went viral? Skip started to answer, but Steph raised his hand gently. No, it is a rhetorical question. I know you did not watch. Because if you had, you would know that Ayesha was not saying our marriage is bad. She was being vulnerable. She was being honest about insecurities that every married person feels at some point. Steph's voice began to get more emotional, but he maintained control. Each word was chosen carefully, with purpose. She was saying, sometimes I feel invisible. And you know what I did when I heard that? I was not angry. I was not embarrassed. I listened. I heard my wife. Because that is what you do when you love someone. You listen, even when it is uncomfortable, even when it is vulnerable, even when the whole world is watching. Steph made a pause. Let it breathe. Let it sink in. But you took that moment of vulnerability, that moment of beautiful honesty from a woman talking about her insecurities, and you transformed it into this. He gestured to the studio, to the cameras, to everything around, into speculation about divorce, into rumors, into marriage problems. Shannon Sharp could not help himself. Preach, he shouted, emotional. And Steph continued, now with his voice beginning to break slightly, but powerful. And you know what the sad part is, Skip? It is that you are not the only one. There are hundreds of Skips out there, people who have never met us, who have never seen how we are at home, who have never seen Ayesha wake up at 6 in the morning to make breakfast for the kids, who have never seen her support me when I lost 3 finals in a row, who have never seen her give up her acting career to move to Oakland with me when I was drafted in 2009? His voice cracked for just a second. Just 1 second. But it was enough to show the real emotion behind the words. You saw 30 seconds, and you decided you knew our marriage better than we know it. Steph looked directly at the camera again. He was not talking just to Skip anymore. He was talking to everyone, to every person who had speculated, every person who had judged, every person who had turned Ayesha's vulnerability into a weapon. So I am going to answer your question, Skip. And I am going to answer it to everyone who is speculating, everyone who created rumors, everyone who decided they know our life better than we do. Steph made a long pause. 3 full seconds. The tension was palpable. You could feel millions of people holding their breath. Is everything okay in my marriage? Another pause. Skip began to smile slightly, thinking he was right, thinking he was about to hear the confirmation he expected. No. Skip's smile grew for a fraction of a second, and then Steph completed. No, it is not okay. It is amazing. Steph smiled for the first time since Skip asked the question. A genuine, powerful smile, full of love. Because okay is mediocre, Skip. Okay is all right. Okay is enough. And my marriage with Ayesha is none of that. It is extraordinary. It is challenging. It is real. It is vulnerable. It is strong. It is fragile. It is human. How is it possible that someone turns an attack question into such a powerful declaration of love? It is a real marriage, Steph continued. Not an Instagram marriage. Not a fairy tale marriage. A marriage where two people who love each other work every day to keep loving each other, to keep growing, to keep seeing each other, to keep choosing each other. He looked directly at Skip again. So no, Skip. There are no problems. There are no true rumors. There is no divorce coming. There are just two imperfect people building a life together, a family together, a legacy together. And then Steph released the final line, the line that would leave Skip Bayless completely without words. And if you think that is a problem, then I feel sorry for your marriage. The bomb had been dropped, and the entire studio felt the impact. Shannon Sharpe could not help himself. He stood up from his chair, applauding, with tears starting to form in his eyes. That is what I am talking about. That is a man. That is a real husband. Shannon turned to Skip, pointing, his voice full of emotion and conviction. Skip, I told you. I told you not to go there. I told you. Steph interrupted gently. Shannon, it is okay. Really. Shannon stopped, looking at Steph with a mixture of admiration and surprise. And then Steph said something no one expected. Actually, I want to thank Skip. Shannon got confused. Skip got confused. The entire room got confused. No, really, Steph continued, because Skip gave me an opportunity I did not have until now. Since June, since that Ayesha interview, I stayed quiet. I did not speak about it publicly. I did not give interviews about the subject. You can see that something profound was being revealed now. A truth that Steph had kept for 3 full months. Why? Because I thought if I ignored it, if I did not give it attention, it would pass. But it did not pass. The rumors only grew. The speculation only got worse. Steph's voice began to break slightly. And Ayesha has been carrying this alone. She has been dealing with the comments, the memes, people saying she embarrassed me, that she is attention-seeking, that she seeks attention, that she hurt my brand. And I let her. Steph made a pause, the weight of guilt visible in his expression. I let her carry this alone because I was trying to protect my image, trying not to make it bigger, trying to keep the peace. But Skip just reminded me of something important. He looked directly at the camera again. There is no image more important than protecting my wife. There is no brand more valuable than defending my family. There is no career more meaningful than being the husband and father that they deserve. It is impossible not to feel the absolute sincerity in those words. So thank you, Skip, because you gave me the platform to say what I should have said 3 months ago. Steph kept his gaze fixed on the camera, speaking now not only to the millions watching, but to one specific person. Ayesha. Ayesha Curry is my partner, my best friend, the mother of my children, the woman I choose every day. And if you have a problem with her, you have a problem with me. If you attack her, you attack me. If you disrespect her, you disrespect me. He looked back at Skip. So now you are going to have to put me on your list of people that you criticize, Skip? Because Ayesha and me? We are a package. We always have been. We always will be. Shannon, still standing, was visibly emotional. He wiped his eyes and spoke directly to the camera. Steph, man, that is beautiful. That is what every man should do. Defend your woman. Ladies, if your man does not defend you like that, he is not your real man. Skip finally found his voice, trying to regain some control of the situation. Steph, I was not trying to attack. Steph raised his hand gently, but firmly. "Skip, with all respect." "Yes, you were. Maybe you do not see it that way. Maybe you think it is just doing your job, just asking hard questions, just creating debate for the program." Steph made a significant pause. "But there is a line, Skip. And that line is when you get into someone's marriage, when you speculate about someone's private life, when you take 30 seconds of vulnerability and turn it into months of pain. Because it is not just TV for us, Skip." His voice got stronger, firmer. "It is our life." The silence that followed was different from the silences before. It was not uncomfortable. It was respectful. It was the kind of silence that happens when a deep truth is said, and everyone needs a moment to absorb it. Steph adjusted himself in his chair, and his voice became softer, more vulnerable. "You guys want to know the truth about that Red Table Talk interview? I am going to tell you. Have you ever wondered what happens behind the scenes of a public marriage? What really happens when the cameras are not rolling?" A few weeks before that interview, Ayesha came to me. It was night. The kids were already sleeping. The house was quiet. And she was crying. The memory was vivid in his eyes. You could feel that he was reliving that moment. She said, "Steph, sometimes I feel invisible, like I am just your wife, just the mother of the children, like Ayesha, had disappeared." Steph's voice cracked slightly. "And you know what broke my heart? It was not that she was feeling that way. It was that she was afraid to tell me. She was afraid that if she told me, I was going to get angry, or offended, or think she was being ungrateful." Steph discreetly wiped the corner of his eye. "My wife, the woman who has been with me for 17 years, was afraid to be honest with me about how she was feeling. And that was a wake-up call. For me, a call to wake up. Naturally, that leads us to the understanding that real marriage is not about perfection. It is about honesty. Because she was right. I had been so focused on basketball, on titles, on championships, on being Steph Curry, the basketball player, that I had forgotten to see her. Really see her. Not as the wife of Steph Curry, but as Ayesha, the woman I fell in love with when I was 19 years old." Steph looked directly at the camera, his message clear and powerful. So when she went on the Red Table Talk and talked about wanting attention, she was not talking about attention from the world. She was talking about attention from me, from her husband, who was so busy being a superstar that he forgot to make his wife feel seen, feel valued, feel loved the way she needed. He looked back at Skip, and there was a mixture of sadness and determination in his voice. "And when you all turned that moment of her honesty into, she just wants attention, she is insecure, she is causing problems, you completely missed the point." Steph took a deep breath, preparing for the hardest truth. She is not the problem. I was the problem. And she had the courage to say that, publicly, knowing she was going to be criticized, knowing that people like you, Skip, were going to use that against her. But she said it anyway. His voice got stronger now, full of admiration. Why? Because she loves our marriage more than she loves the perfect image of our marriage. Because she would rather be vulnerable and real than be fake and perfect. And that is a strong woman. That is an incredible wife. That is someone who is fighting for a real marriage, not for a fake Instagram marriage. Shannon could not help himself again. Yes, that is right. So when you ask, is everything okay in the marriage? Steph continued, looking directly at Skip. The answer is, it is better than ever. Because we are not afraid to be vulnerable. We are not afraid to be real. We are not afraid to say, this is difficult. We are going to work on it. This hurts. We are going to talk about it. I hurt you. I am sorry. We are going to grow together. He looked at the camera one more time, his message now universal. And for any couple watching this right now, if your marriage is perfect 100% of the time, you are lying. To yourself and to everyone. Real marriage is difficult. It is work. It is difficult conversations at 3 in the morning. It is vulnerability. It is saying I was wrong. It is listening when you do not want to listen. It is seeing when it is easier not to see. You can see that this was no longer just an answer to Skip. It was a class about true love. But it is beautiful. It is the most beautiful thing that exists. And I would not trade my imperfect and real marriage with Ayesha for any perfect and fake marriage in the world. Not for all the money. Not for all the victories. Not for all the titles. Steph made a pause, letting that sink in. Skip, one last thing. His voice was calm again, but firm. You mentioned rumors. You said there are rumors of problems in our marriage. I want to know, where do those rumors come from? Skip began to open his mouth, but Steph continued. No, really. Who told you? What source? What insider? What person close to us gave you that information? Skip had no answer. Because I guarantee you, whoever told you that person does not know me. Does not know Ayesha. Never been in our house. Never seen us together for real. Never seen us in the difficult moments and the beautiful moments that make a real marriage. How is it possible that rumors become truths with no factual basis? So, these rumors, they are not rumors. They are lies. Lies created by people who make money creating drama, creating clicks, creating hot takes, creating content for TV programs and gossip websites. Steph looked at Shannon, then at Skip. And I understand, man. You guys have a show to do. You have ratings to get. You have an audience to keep. You have a job. I understand that. But I have a family. His voice got stronger, more powerful. And my family is not content for your show. My wife is not debate for Undisputed. My marriage is not hot take for Twitter. My children are not headline for TMZ. Steph slowly got up from his chair, maintaining his dignity, his quiet power. They are real people, with real feelings, living a real life, with real problems, and real love, and real pain, and real joy. He looked directly at Skip one last time. And if you, or anyone, wants to continue speculating about us, fine. That is okay. But now you know the truth, straight from the source, from the only source that matters. Steph extended his hand to Skip. Ayesha and I, we are together. We are strong. And we are going to keep being vulnerable, being real, being honest. Because that is how real marriages work. That is how true love survives. That is how you build something that lasts. Skip shook Steph's hand, clearly without the adequate words. For the first time in decades of career, Skip Bayless was genuinely without response. Thank you for the opportunity to come here today, Skip. Steph then turned to Shannon and opened his arms. And Shannon, thank you for always defending what is right, man. For always seeing beyond the sensationalism. For always remembering that we are humans first. Shannon hugged Steph, visibly emotional. Always. Brother. Always. That was real. That was beautiful. Steph waved to the staff, to the cameras, and began to leave the set. Every step he took carried dignity, power, love, conviction. And when the door closed behind him, the entire studio went silent. Not the uncomfortable silence from the beginning, but the silence of respect, of admiration, of recognition that something extraordinary had just happened. Skip Bayless looked at Shannon, then at the cameras, then down, and said, with a voice that no one was accustomed to hearing from him, "We are going to commercial." Fade to black. But the story was just beginning. Seconds after the commercial, chaos began. Behind the scenes at FS1 Studios, producers were running back and forth. Phones ringing, computers on, social media exploding in real time. "This is going to be huge," one producer shouted to the other. "Cut the clip! Put it on the air now!" The social media team was in emergency mode, preparing clips, writing, captions, knowing they were about to witness something going viral on a scale rarely seen. Meanwhile, outside the building, Steph Curry entered his car. It was 11:58 in the morning. His hands trembled slightly as he grabbed the phone and dialed. One ring, two rings. "Baby, I did something." On the other end of the line, Ayesha was at home with the children. She had not watched the interview live. She did not know what had happened. "What? What did you do? Is everything okay?" And, Steph told her, he told her about Skip's question, about his answer, about everything he had said on national television, in front of millions of people. Ayesha began to cry, not tears of sadness, tears of love, of gratitude, of relief. "You did that? For me? You really said all that?" "Always, baby. I am always going to defend you. Always going to protect you. Always going to make you feel seen. I promise." Ayesha's voice was broken with emotion. "I love you so much. So much. I love you more." While that conversation was happening, the internet was catching fire. 12 hours and 3 minutes in the afternoon. 5 minutes after the end of the interview. Twitter exploded. The clip was already circulating. Cut, edited, posted by dozens of different accounts. The speed was impressive. The virality was instant. Trending topic number 1, Steph Curry. Trending topic number 2, Ayesha Curry. Trending topic number 3, Skip Bayless. The reactions began to arrive from everywhere, from athletes, from celebrities, from common people, from couples, from parents, from mothers, from anyone who had ever loved someone for real. LeBron James, who had his own complicated history with Skip Bayless, tweeted immediately, "That is how you do it, Steph Curry. Real king defending his queen. Total respect." Draymond Green, teammate and best friend of Steph. "My brother! That is what I am talking about. Steph Curry just gave a class to Skip Bayless on national TV. That is love. That is loyalty." Kevin Durant, who had left the Warriors just months before. "Man, respect to Steph. That was powerful. That was real." Shaquille O'Neal. "Steph Curry just gave every married man a blueprint, a manual. Defend your wife. Period." Dwayne Wade. "Standing ovation for Steph Curry. That is true love." Chris Broussard, journalist from FS1 itself. "I have covered the NBA for 25 years. That was the most powerful athlete interview I have ever seen. Curry just changed the entire conversation." But it was not just athletes and celebrities. It was normal people. Real people with real marriages and real problems and real love. A user named Sarah, mother of 3 children. "I am not crying. You are crying. If my husband defended me like that, I have no words. Steph Curry is the standard." A user named Jamal. Skip Bayless was destroyed, and he knew it. He had no answer. Zero. Nothing. For the first time in his life. A high school coach. Every young man needs to watch what Steph Curry just did. That is masculinity. That is strength. That is what it means to be a real man. Defend your woman. A journalist. That is what it looks like when a man truly loves and respects his wife. Steph Curry just set the standard. Have you ever seen something spread so fast that it seems to take on a life of its own? Like a wave that cannot be stopped? In 1 hour, the clip had 5 million views. In 2 hours, 15 million. In 3 hours, 25 million. And it kept growing exponentially. Back on Undisputed, after the commercial, Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharpe returned to the air. But something was different. Skip was different. Okay. Skip took a deep breath, clearly shaken. We just had a pretty intense moment here on Undisputed. Shannon looked at him, waiting to see where this was going. Steph Curry. He clearly has very strong feelings about his family, about Ayesha. And Skip made a pause, something rare for him. I respect that. Shannon seemed surprised. That was not the Skip he knew. That was not the Skip who never admitted he was wrong. Look, my job is to ask difficult questions. It is to create debate. It is what I have done for 40 years. Skip was choosing his words carefully. But maybe that specific question, maybe I crossed a line that I should not have crossed. It is impossible not to recognize when someone is having a genuine moment of reflection. Steph made a valid point about rumors, about speculation, about how that affects real people. And I am going to think about that. Shannon took the moment. Skip, I appreciate you saying that. Really. And look, I know our show is about debate. It is about disagreeing. But Shannon looked directly at the camera. What Steph just did? That was not debate. That was truth. Truth about love, about marriage, about defending your family. And I hope, I pray, that every man who watched this now learns something. Because I learned. He turned to Skip. We learned. Skip gave a small, sad smile, a moment rare of vulnerability. Yeah, Shannon, we learned. 2 hours later, at 2:15 in the afternoon, Ayesha Curry posted on Instagram. The photo was old but beautiful. Her and Steph hugging, smiling, clearly in love. And the caption, 17 years, 3 children, 1 love. Thank you, Steph Curry, for seeing me, for listening to me, for defending me, not just today, but every day. Marriage is not perfect, but with you, it is real. And real is the only kind of love I want. I love you. Always. In 2 hours, the post had 4.2 million likes, 287,000 comments. The comments were beautiful. They were hopeful. They were inspiring. This is beautiful. Crying here. Goals forever. You guys are the couple that everyone wants to be. He is a keeper, Ayesha. You found a real man. Love that loves back. That is love that returns. 15 minutes later, at 2:30 in the afternoon, Steph Curry posted on Instagram. The photo was of Ayesha smiling, natural, at home. Not a red carpet photo, not a professional photo, a real photo of her being her. The caption said, "That is the woman I see every day. Not the wife of Steph Curry. Ayesha, chef, businesswoman, incredible mother, my best friend. And yes, sometimes she has insecurities, just like me, just like everyone. But the difference? She has the courage to admit it, to be vulnerable, to be real. And I am going to spend the rest of my life making her feel seen, loved, valued, because she deserves it, always deserved it. I love you, Ayesha Curry. In 30 minutes, the post had 6.8 million likes. What is most impressive is how something as simple as honesty can touch millions of hearts. A week later, the impact was clear. The media could not stop talking about it. ESPN did a special segment called Curry is Defense of Love. CNN did a story. Steph Curry teaches a lesson about marriage. The Breakfast Club dedicated 45 minutes discussing. Joe Rogan talked about it on his podcast. That was powerful, man. That was real. Oprah Winfrey tweeted, beautiful, just beautiful. The numbers were impressive. The original clip had 47 million views in 1 week. It was trending #1 on Twitter for 3 consecutive days. The ratings for Undisputed went up 340%. Skip Bayless lost 200,000 followers. Steph Curry gained 3.2 million new followers, but the impact went beyond the numbers. Something was changing in the culture. A hashtag began to trend. Defend your wife. Men began posting about their wives, about defending them, about seeing them, about loving them publicly. Marriage therapists began talking about the Curry effect. Couples began having conversations about vulnerability, about being real, about not being afraid to admit when things are difficult. 1 month later, in a private conversation without cameras, Skip Bayless spoke with Shannon Sharpe. Shannon, I learned something that day. Shannon looked at him, surprised by the sincerity. I spent 40 years creating hot takes, creating debate, provoking people, building a career on top of controversy. Skip made a pause. But that day, when Curry looked me in the eyes and said, there is a line, he was right. I had crossed the line. And you know what is crazy? What? I have more respect for Steph Curry now than I had before. Not as a player, as a man. Shannon smiled. Skip, that is growth, man. Real growth. 6 months later, in March of 2020, Steph and Ayesha were invited for a joint interview with Oprah. Oprah, with her characteristic wisdom, went straight to the point. That moment on Undisputed, what did that change for you guys? Ayesha held Steph's hand, tears starting to form. That showed me that I married the right man. Not because he defended me on TV, but because he sees me, really sees me. And he is not ashamed to show that to the world. He is not ashamed to be vulnerable, to be real, to be imperfect. Steph looked at her with a love so obvious that it was impossible not to feel it. That moment was not about proving something to the media. It was about reminding Ayesha and reminding everyone that true love is not perfect, but it is real. And real is the only one worth it. Real is the only one that lasts. Real is the only one that survives the storms. Naturally, that leads us to a bigger question. How do we measure the success of a marriage? Today, in 2024, 5 years after that moment, the legacy is clear. Steph and Ayesha Curry are still married, stronger than ever. They now have 4 children, and they are a reference of a real couple. Not perfect, real. Skip Bayless retired in 2023. In his last interview, he was asked about regrets in his career. My only regret? That question to Curry. He taught me that there are things more important than ratings, that there are lines that should not be crossed, that behind every athlete, every celebrity, there is a person, a family, a life. The complete clip now has 127 million total views. It is used in couple therapies. Universities did studies about media and privacy because of it. There is even a documentary called The Line Sports Media Ethics that uses that moment as the central case. But maybe the deepest impact is in the conversations. In the millions of conversations that couples had because of that moment. Conversations about vulnerability, about defense, about true love. How many times in life can one unique moment change the way millions of people see love? September the 30th of 2019. The day Skip Bayless crossed the line. And the day Steph Curry showed the world what it means to defend your wife. Not with anger, not with aggression, not with violence or screaming, but with dignity, with love, with truth, with vulnerability, with humanity. That moment was not just about Steph and Ayesha. It was about all of us, about remembering that behind every celebrity there is a person. Behind every hot take, there is a real life. Behind every rumor, there is a family. Behind every headline, there is a heart that can be hurt. And sometimes, one person deciding to stand up and say enough changes everything. This was the story of when Steph Curry defended Ayesha and taught us that true love is not perfect. It is not easy. It is not a fairy tale. But it is worth fighting for, always. Because in the end, what matters most is not the titles. It is not the millions. It is not the awards, or the fame, or the Instagram followers. What matters most is who is by your side when the cameras turn off. Who sees you when you are invisible. Who listens to you when you are silent. Who chooses you again and again. Every single day. And on that September day, Steph Curry chose Ayesha. In front of the whole world. Without shame, without fear, without hesitation, and changed the way millions of people understand what it means to love for real. This is the story. The story of a line that was crossed, and of a love that refused to be questioned. And 5 years later, that love is still standing, still strong, still real, because true love does not give up. It never gave up, and it will never give up.